Hi, I'm Jamie Miller, registered SQF consultant at Kellerman Consulting, and you're watching the Supplier Approval Program video series. Kellerman Consulting releases weekly training videos and important tips and strategies to help companies keep up to date with the latest food safety regulations. In the last episode, we discussed the FDA's regulatory requirements for the use of raw materials and ingredients imported from foreign suppliers, known as a Foreign Supplier Verification Program. In this episode, we are going to discuss which types of documents to use in order to perform a supplier assessment, as well as how and when to conduct a reassessment of your suppliers. Approving a supplier for your facility starts with collecting important legal and food safety documentation from the supplier. The type of documents that you collect from each supplier will depend on a variety of factors. You will need to consider the risk level of the supplier and the type of material or product to be supplied. A high-risk supplier, such as a supplier that has not participated in a third-party audit or that supplies a high-risk product, will need to provide much more comprehensive food safety documentation than a low-risk supplier. The type of finished product produced at your facility, as well as any optional claims used on the product, such as organic or kosher, should also be considered when collecting supplier documentation. For a list of supplier documents to consider during the supplier approval process, check out our free resource available at www.kellermanconsulting.com. It is important to keep in mind that document requests and communication with suppliers can be a lengthy process depending on your relationship with each supplier, language barriers, number of ingredients supplied, and other factors. When establishing a new supplier approval program or completing an annual review, give yourself plenty of time for the document collection process. I will start by discussing a few types of supplier documents that should be considered as high priority when implementing your supplier approval program. First on the list is a letter of guarantee. A letter of guarantee is a document provided by suppliers guaranteeing that their product is in compliance with all applicable federal food safety legislation and the product provided will be wholesome and not adulterated or misbranded. You should receive a letter of guarantee from each supplier of ingredients, raw materials, and packaging materials that you purchase from. Another important document to collect is a product specification sheet or technical data sheet. This document provides a description of the product or material and includes key information such as the ingredients or subcomponents, allergen declaration, packaging information, nutritional information, shelf life, storage and handling requirements, and any analytical information such as pH, water activity, or moisture content. A product specification sheet gives you detailed information about the product or material you are purchasing for use in your process, and provides valuable information to assist in maintaining a high standard of food safety in your facility. Where possible, you should collect documentation from your suppliers, demonstrating that there is a functional food safety system in place within the facility and operation. This may take form of a HACCP plan or a preventive controls food safety plan. If suppliers are unable or unwilling to provide this information, a process flow diagram identifying the hazards and control measures implemented by the supplier is also acceptable. It is important to understand what hazards are identified by your suppliers and what control measures, if any, are in place by your suppliers when conducting your own hazard analysis. Any hazards that have not been controlled by the supplier will need to be taken into consideration in your process, and controls may need to be implemented in your operation to mitigate the potential hazard. If your suppliers participate in a voluntary third-party audit, collecting the audit certificate and audit report, if possible, is another way to assess the food safety systems of your suppliers. Suppliers that participate in a GFSI scheme, such as SQF, BRCGS, FSSC 22000, or Primus GFS, should be prioritized as these suppliers are held to the highest level of food safety and quality standards. Suppliers that participate in other third-party audits, such as GMP or GDP audits, may also be accepted with additional risk assessments. In either case, third-party audits provide a level of confidence in a supplier since they have been inspected by an independent party qualified to review food safety information. Once you've collected the requested food safety documentation from your suppliers, the next step is to assess the documentation. During this activity, you should review the documents for completeness, accuracy, and risk. Suppliers that are unable or unwilling to provide some or all of the requested documents should be placed into a higher risk category since they have failed to provide the evidence needed to properly evaluate their food safety system. Likewise, suppliers that provide incomplete documentation or lack the appropriate food safety controls for their process should also be considered as a higher risk. When assessing the documents, look for areas of concern such as repeated nonconformances without effective corrective and preventive actions or gaps in critical food safety programs such as allergen control, environmental monitoring, food fraud, or food defense. Be sure to inquire about any areas of concern with your suppliers and take note of their cooperation or lack of in providing you the requested information. The activity of collecting and reviewing the information provided by your suppliers is a huge challenge, but can provide incredibly useful insight to the risk assumed by your business by purchasing goods from each supplier. Once you have approved suppliers for your facility, you must create a schedule to reassess the suppliers at defined frequencies based on their assessed risk level. At a minimum, reassessments of suppliers should occur annually and may need to occur more frequently for medium and high-risk suppliers compared to those low-risk suppliers. You should review your approved suppliers annually, as well as any time a new supplier is added or an existing supplier is changed or removed from the list. When conducting a supplier reassessment, you should review the supplier's food safety documentation and collect updated versions of outdated or expired documents where appropriate. At Kellerman Consulting, we recommend that letters of guarantee be updated and resubmitted annually, while other documentation may be resubmitted at lesser frequencies, such as once every 3 years. Any documentation with an expiration date, such as an audit certificate, should be updated upon expiry. At a minimum, you should reconfirm with your suppliers that the documentation and information provided to you is still accurate and relevant to their process. Retain any communications from the supplier confirming the continued accuracy of the documents. Lastly, when conducting a supplier reassessment, you should consider the performance of the supplier over the past year. Have they supplied you the incorrect product, shipped materials and damaged packaging, or missed deliveries? Have you identified any food safety or quality defects in the products received? Has the supplier had a product recall or withdrawal or received an FDA warning letter? If the supplier has had several occurrences of poor performance over the last year, reassess their risk level, and if appropriate, search for alternate suppliers. Please do not rely solely on the information contained in this video series when creating your food safety program. It's important to ensure your food safety program meets all of the specific regulatory requirements associated with the product that you are manufacturing. In our next episode, we will discuss the use of software solutions in supplier approval programs and how these solutions can support your supplier approval process. Thank you for watching. To learn more, visit our website and you'll find a full library of food safety training videos and resources. You may also follow us on LinkedIn and click the bell to be notified of new resources as they are released each week.